Hi everybody, Dr. Qazi over here. I'm going to wait a few moments for it to connect to everywhere. But for those who don't know me, I'm Dr. Qazi. I am a physician over in Newport Beach, California. I do a lot with acne, I do a lot with scars, and I do a lot with pigmentation. Today I'm going to talk to you about collagen fillers. So I want to showcase this just because I get a lot of questions regarding fillers. I get a lot of things about whether or not fillers are going to look unnatural. And I just want to showcase this for you guys, just that there is a way to do this. We can make it look really, really nice without looking unnatural. And part of what I do is this every single day. I do it with a lot of different products. In this case, I'm using dilute Radiesse, as well as a little bit of Bellafill for this patient. So I wanted to showcase that for you guys because that's something that I know a lot of people have questions about with filler and whether or not it's going to look too puffy, too overdone. So I wanted to kind of get that so that you guys could see there is a way to really do this. There's a way to do it and it looks really good. I actually have to restart though because it didn't go live the way I expected to everywhere. So let me just reset this live in just a few seconds here. Sorry guys, for those just joining me, I'm going to reset this because it didn't really work the way I wanted to. Oh, here we go. I think it just was delayed a little bit is what I'm hearing. Okay, perfect. So we are okay. So if everybody could hear me, I'm Dr. Qazi. I'm over in Newport Beach, California. And we're showcasing a patient over here for her fillers. This is a patient who was really worried about just the general aging that she was noticing. She felt that like just her volume was really depressed. She felt as if she was losing elasticity in her skin. It was a little bit looser than she would like. She had some marionette lines as well. So I did a few different things really to help her out with collagen fillers. So that's what I did right there. So this is a patient where we ended up doing a dilute Radiesse for her, as well as some Bellafill for her. Miriam, how's it going, Miriam? Miriam's asking, I forgot to ask, was yesterday's result after one session? No, that was actually after the initial session where I did a combination of Tailor Liberator, TCA Cross, as well as we did ablative CO2 laser and fractional CO2 laser. That's the result we have on our page today. If you look at our page, you can see the result of that patient. And then we, 4 weeks later, did some dilute Radiesse for him. And then we had, when he came in for that photo that day, we ended up doing some more dilute Radiesse. So this is also what I'm talking about, right? This patient right here, dilute Radiesse, I really love it for just overall collagen production, overall just kind of global volume restoration. You can see this really, really nicely over here in this view right now. This patient's marionette lines improved significantly with this. So it's really nice because it's something that you get to keep. You get to keep your skin. It gets better and better over time. It stays like you. I don't think anyone could look at this and think this doesn't look like that patient. I feel like even if she goes to her family members, things like that, they're just going to feel like she just looks healthy. Yeah, that's what Miriam's saying. She just has a healthy look. That's the thing, is that sometimes, as you get a little bit older, your volume starts to fluctuate a little bit, fat pads start to shift, and collagen production starts to go down, elasticity goes down. So we have to do some things sometimes to improve that. And some people will say, well, just do a facelift necklift. First of all, really good facelift necklifts are really out of reach for a lot of people. But things like this can help with this, even if you end up doing facelift necklifts, because your skin quality is so much better. It's going to look a lot better over time. So, certainly there's a role for facelift necklifts, but this is the thing that we could do to improve over time. Subtle little small tweaks just to make you look more refreshed. That's the goal here. Let's see, Kelly saying the little jowls are gone. Yeah, absolutely. That was the thing that made her super happy. That was one of her biggest problems. Her complaints when she came to me was that she was worried about the sunken in look. She was saying in her under eye area. She was saying that she was also worried about some heaviness with her jowls, and so that's what I wanted to work on. And the way I did that was with dilute Radiesse. So basically what dilute Radiesse means is I go into the skin and actually help with making sure that we can stimulate some collagen and elastin production. So we did that with this patient. And then we also did some Bellafill for this patient. I did Bellafill in the marionette lines for her. And we did a little bit over here in the mid cheek as well with a Bellafill as well. And then, we also wanted to build out her jawline. So we did that as well for her. So this is not PRP filler for this case. PRP, by the way, is not filler. PRP is platelet-rich plasma. What we do with that is we spin your blood around and we get the growth factors from the blood, and those are platelet-rich plasma, and then we re-inject that into areas like, for example, your under eye area or your scalp, and it stimulates new blood flow there. So that's what that's for, but it's not actually going to give you volume. So what we wanted to do for this patient was we wanted to give volume. We also wanted to do something to tighten her skin. So Radiesse works really well for that. Dilute Radiesse works really, really well because it actually does stimulate some elastin production, so the skin feels more firm after a while. And then we also did Bellafill, which is a long-lasting collagen-based product. 80% of it's made out of cow collagen, 20% is made out of PMMA. And so basically it's really nice. It's a very soft product, but it's great for like small little areas, especially just to support that. I really love it in the nasolabial fold, for example, because it basically is just collagen. It's just going to support the tissue, especially if you do it right, do it in the right layer. It's going to work really well. The Phoenix is saying, I don't think it's live. I am live. If you have a question, just feel free to ask me. I just sometimes just go and answer questions, and it does take me a little bit of time to answer it in depth, but I am live. I'm right here. So feel free to ask me something. I'm sure you just ask. I'm sure you ask a bunch of questions though, but I'm trying to hit all of them. I'm trying to kind of give everybody that asked it just kind of a more in-depth answer here, so it's not too rushed. Mariam's asking, how much would something like this cost? This could cost, this is probably going to be about $7,000, probably close to that. Just to be clear. But this is more like full volume restoration over here for a patient who had lost a lot of volume. So it is probably close to about that. There's a concern someone is saying about filler migration. The way I do filler, it doesn't migrate. I'm very careful with what I'm doing, with the products I'm using. I talked to you guys about this before, that I'm not stuck with any product at all. I just use the best possible product for each of my patients. So what happens sometimes also is that people get confused because they think that I'm going to be with like Allergan products or with Galderma products only. I like some products of theirs, some products of other companies, and I just do what's best for the patient. And if I need to give more structure, I'm going to use products that are thicker. I'm going to go deep to the bone. I don't believe in using a cannula for those kind of products where it's thick. I had a patient, the last week I had a patient, he had so much voluma in his cheeks, and they put Volux all over his jawline. It was terrible work. And it was like they just did it all with a cannula. And it looks like, it's just like when you have something that's very, very thick, like voluma, it's drawing in water and it's doing it in a pocket that it should never do. And sometimes for some of my patients, I dissolved last week a patient who had filler 8 years ago. Today's patient, he came in to me, he was worried about filler. There was a little bit of a lump that was there 20 years ago. So things like that, actually, sometimes filler, if it's in a superficial pocket, it's not appropriate. So you just have to do the right filler for the right spot with the face. And a lot of times it's not with one company. You have to do multiple different companies. You don't just sit there and just be stuck with one company. That's what I do. I don't believe in it. That's how I do it with lasers too, energy devices. I don't stick with a single company. And they know that. I honestly, the reps don't love that. I'm not really, that's not really my interest. I just want to make sure that I can get the best possible results for each of my patients, just really hit it really, really well. Bruce Wayne, I love that name. Bruce Wayne is saying, I have ingrown hair scarring. I'm going to need laser, but also from the ingrowns, I have to tweeze them out. It caused a lot of scarring. What do you suggest, doc? So those typically are little tiny ice pick scars. We probably are going to do TCA cross. Tony Santana saying, if someone comes to you and does Bellafill but gets granuloma, do you charge to remove them? Are you saying if I did it? First of all, I never had a single problem with that. I have had no problems whatsoever with Bellafill ever. But I would say, though, if there's any complications of something that I'm doing, I'm taking care of it, though. I don't charge people for that. So just that's with anything, really. I never let somebody walk around with worse for anything for me. So it's like I always take care of you from start to finish with it. It's like just super important. I know so many people will say, well, you should always, when I was starting, they were saying, well, anytime you do a revision, things like that, you have to charge for stuff. It depends on like the context. If we're talking about like, is it really because, something you're injecting, and then it's something like there's a problem with the thing that you injected here, the way that you did it, something like that. Just own up to it and just try to fix it for the person and make it better for someone. Like I have no problem doing that whatsoever. But if it's like a matter of like, well, I did recommend doing multiple vials in a patient's jawline, for example. It needs a lot of volume a lot of times. And then someone says, no, I only want to do one. And then I talk to them and I say, well, okay, we'll start with just one and we'll build on it. And then, I had a patient, this is actually a real story. I had a patient, I told them this, this is for her chin. I said, it's not going to be enough. We're going to start with this. And I thought she was a good, honest type of person. She brought her friend who was like a plastic surgeon, stuff like that. So I assumed, okay, this is, that's what's going to happen. And then she comes back, a few weeks later and says that she hardly sees a difference. And I was like, well, it was just one vial. And she's like, gaslighting me and saying that I never told her to do a second one. I said in my notes that we told her to do a second one. I know for sure we told her a second one. And it's like really unfortunate now because it's like you were just like, I would have taken care of her and I did take care of her at that moment. But like probably, just be more honest with me because then I could have given you really excellent work and excellent results forever. But I assume most people are going to try to be, honest and reasonable with me, and I try to go work with it. Every once in a while, you run into someone that's not. Vast majority of people, though, are very, very honest and just want really great results. That's what I want, and I want that. I want that for them too. So it's like just be like that. It's like that's how we're going to have a great relationship. I'm going to get you to what you want. I'll be able to achieve what you're trying to achieve in a really, really great way. I can work with your budget, things like that, if we need to. But like, just be aware that it's just going to take a little bit longer. It's going to take some work. We may have multiple touch points then if we need to get there. Jack Batista saying, hey doctor, is there a big risk of facial sagging from subcision? Really good question. I talked a lot about this on multiple different lives, but I get it all the time. So it's worth kind of going into really more in depth right now. So for those who have been asking me questions, I'll go through your questions in just a moment, but I'll answer this one about the risk of facial sagging from subcision. So when it comes to subcision, I've always really believed that it is potentially risky in certain parts of the face. So I never really do sharp tools in certain parts of the face, particularly the lower face. Especially if you're going deep, I would never really do it that way. But the thing is that some of the compartments, some of the ligaments are relatively superficial. So you have to be exceptionally careful in that area when you're doing subcision. And there's certain people, certain methods where they do like more like a windshield wiper approach with blades, even in the lower part of the face. I think you could run into problems with that. But if you're using, for example, the small localized areas, you're doing more a blunt cannula subcision, really meticulously, really carefully, you're going to have less chance of that. And really, I don't run into that problem. I'm really very, very careful as I do it. Anybody who does subcision with me knows how I do subcision. I'm extremely meticulous as I'm doing multiple different layers. I'm never using too much force. I'm really, really careful as I do it. So, that's what I pride myself on. And hopefully, that gives people some confidence and that you can do subcision and sort of like, people could say that there's a complication with even a microneedling pen and things like that, but that doesn't mean we just turn all microneedling pens away and we say that we should never do that treatment and things like that. Sometimes it's okay. It just depends on how you're doing it and where you're doing it. And the way I do it is just, is really carefully. And you have to do it that way. I do think that there's an element here of risk and we have to be really careful. The last thing I want to do ever is have somebody look worse due to the procedures I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make you look really, really great, feel really good about your face, feel really good about your body. That's what I want for you guys. That's what makes me happy. That's what makes me happy to come on here, things like that. So that's something super seriously important for me. And the other thing is for me, everything I do, I'm able to improve if there's any complications. So I never do any type of procedure, even if it came to like PDO threads. A lot of people in my area were doing PDO threads and they were sending me to me for complications because they don't do subcision. They don't know how to pull it out or rake it up and things like that. And so it's like, that's okay. Like they had at least sent it to me. But really, when you do a procedure, you should be able to, if you can't reverse it, send it to somebody that can reverse it. But everything I do, I'm capable of improving and making sure I could get better, especially those adverse events that could potentially occur. And that's why, I pride myself on my safety, but also just the fact that there's constant continuity of care and constant touch points to make sure that your patients are so continuously making sure that we're healing in the right direction for everybody. And anybody who does laser with me knows that you take photos for me every single day. We take a look at those for the first week, sometimes a little bit longer, just to make sure you're really safe and everything's healing okay. And then we do a follow-up after 4 weeks just to make sure your pigmentation is okay. I do that not to make sure your results are there really yet, because results don't come really when you do scars after a month. I do that just to make sure you're safe. That's what I want to make sure. And it's safe. That's how we do it. Just follow my instructions, you will be safe. That's the thing. Same thing with fillers. So just follow how I say to do it and you'll be okay. We will get there properly. It's not going to migrate the way I do it. The way I do it structured. We're going to build on it. We're going to keep it natural. So I know I missed a few different people that from some questions over here, so I'm going to try to get to some of the answers over here. Anessa saying, what did this woman get done? Is that PRF? No, this is actually with collagen fillers. This is with dilute Radiesse and Bellafill for this patient. So that's what I ended up doing for this particular patient. Ireland is saying, do you recommend collagen over hyaluronic acid? It depends on what you're trying to achieve. If it's more like just a structure, like you're trying to just basically build out a jawline, then you probably do need more hyaluronic acid for that particular area. But when you're trying to actually improve skin quality, improve elasticity, that's where collagen production is going to really, really be important. You also potentially, if you just want to keep things soft, if you just want to make sure that nothing's too overdone, collagen could be an excellent way of doing it. Although I do have to warn you guys, sometimes I see people who have done a lot of Sculptra, for example, and I like Sculptra, but the way some people do it isn't the best way, honestly. They overload the Sculptra. They put too much on there, so it's really stiff for people. And I will have to say, I had a patient, she's of Vietnamese origin, and they put too much Sculptra in the mid-cheek for her, and it was way too high. You never do that for certain ethnicities especially. It's really, really going to make it look really unnatural. And it looked like, I asked her, did they put it also in the lateral cheek? She said, yeah, they put me in the lateral cheek, and it became too wide for the patient. So you have to look at all that, look at people's natural anatomy, look at their ethnicity, see how they're smiling always. So all the time, anybody who does filler with me knows I always constantly say having you just smile, 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 because I want to see how is it going to look naturally when you animate yourself. And if you notice, a lot of times results and things like that, it just looks okay when you're looking at it like this. But then if you look at the person in real life, it's like sometimes you walk around Fashion Island, Beverly Hills, and you'll see these people. Maybe that result looked okay statically, but now I'm looking at it three-dimensionally. Now I'm looking at when this person's animating and it looks really unnatural. So that's what you want to always try to avoid, because it's like the thing that's a telltale sign of someone who has done a lot of filler is when there's too much, especially in the mid cheek. And then for certain ethnicities, it could be really problematic because it makes it seem as if their face is just chubbier and then it's wider than it should be. So those are the things that I get concerned about when I see really walking down my malls in Newport Beach area sometimes. Let's see here. Drop Dead Sarah saying, is Bellafill a better option than a chin implant? Chin implant could be a great option if you really have recession. If it's mild, if it's small little areas and pockets, then Bellafill is a great option. It's a permanent filler. It could really work well for that. Let's see here. User 36 saying, I want to do acne scars treatments, but I'm afraid I'll invest money and not see results. Well, I could tell you honestly, really, if you work with me, I do get you results. I really do. Nobody gets worse with me, and I continuously work on making sure that people can get there, we can achieve excellent results for people. And with us, we do have a warranty program where in the future lasers or TCA Cross is up to 55% off. So hopefully that helps you out there. Jewelry saying, hi, what's your thoughts about nanofat instead of filler after subcision? Well, nanofat's not really filler. It's going to stimulate more of it's basically stem cells of the fat, and it's potentially could just help with the scar tissue itself. So you could potentially do that after subcision. The question is, what are your thoughts about nanofat instead of filler after subcision? I typically don't do much filler. Most people know when I do procedures that I'm not really going to recommend to do much filler when we do subcision. Usually I have you wait. But if there's small little pockets of like where I did subcision and then the other areas we could do filler, I may do it that way. But in general, I really want to be very precise when I do fillers. And so when you do it at the same time with subcision, it could actually go into different layers of the skin than you may not expect. And then aesthetically, it just doesn't look as good. So, I want people to always look good. It's just really important to me. I'm not just trying to solve your scars. When I'm working on your laser for your scars, I'm also working on your wrinkles. I'm also trying to look at and taking a look to see what other aspects of your skin I could potentially improve, or just like if there's any other areas we could do some skin tightening, things like that. I'm just doing that at the same time. So a lot of times that's just part of what I'm doing. So when I'm doing filler, even if it's for scars, I'm going to make sure it just looks as natural as possible so you age really, really well with this then. RN is saying, what filler are you talking about? This is a dilute Radiesse with Bellafill in this case. So that's what we did for this patient. What do I think about PDO threads? So PDO threads, really good question. I think it has to be a really particular patient. Actually, this patient wanted PDO threads really badly, actually. She was really asking me to do PDO threads initially to help with her jowls, but I knew that there's so much volume loss right there. So what we needed to do was actually restore her volume. If you did PDO threads in her case, you probably could see the threads. It may not actually last as long because you have to use thinner threads. And just the potential complication wasn't worth it, really. Where in this case also, we just really needed to re-volumize the face. So that's what we ended up doing here. So it just sort of depends on what we're looking at for each individual patient. If there's really good thick skin, then maybe you would do that. Tony Santana is saying, what is usually the time break between the first treatment and second treatment where the filler is added? Well, it depends. If we're using more collagen-based products, usually I wait a few months before we put more, usually. Unless there's a lot of volume loss, then, it's okay. But like usually I'm going to wait a few months. I know I missed a few questions more, so I'm going to try to get to that. Let's see here. Spore Sigurd saying, other than making boxcar scars shallower, can you make the scars smaller, like shrink together? I guess I'm not really quite understanding what you mean by that. Are you talking about the diameter? If we can make it, if you can make the diameter smaller, is that what you're asking? I'm a little bit confused. Hart is saying, I just got my Bellafill yesterday, Dr. Qazi. Everything went well. Awesome, Hart. Thank you so much for coming on, for saying that. Really appreciate you, by the way. Honestly, I think there's a way to do that. It could look very soft, very natural. I hope people, I told a lot of people before that everyone used to say certain things that like, don't do this, don't do that. It turns out it's like the way people do things. I myself, when I came over here, I'm originally from Chicago. I was like walking around the streets and everything like that. I'm like, this aesthetic is totally different from my aesthetic. I don't think I'm going to be able to do filler over here. That's what I was thinking. I was like, I'm looking over at everybody and I was like, this is just so puffy and overdone over here. And this is just not my style. It's not my look. And admittedly, when patients first were coming to me and things like that, they kept on, some of the people at that time, the hot trend was just like that really big overdone, like ducky lip type of style, things like that. And I just was refusing. And I was turning people down. It was kind of like, I was just starting. And it's like, I would turn people down and stuff like that. But like, I knew long term, this is the thing that the trend is going to be at. And if you look at my work, it's always been very soft, very natural. That's the way I like to do it. That's how I've always preferred to do it. And the thing is that there is a way to continuously do that way. We could keep it so you continually look really, really great. Just small little tweaks here and there, and we don't have to give you this overdone look. That's just done. The truth is just we have to make it so that this natural trend comes back, really. Jay saying, what's your favorite treatment for chiseled jawline and how long does it last? So a lot of times, actually, someday that patient's going to let me share it, hopefully. He's got one of the most killer jawlines ever now. I've been working on him for a few years. He usually just does one vial every couple months or so. He just comes in and he just does a vial just to kind of get that jawline really chiseled out. It looks incredibly exceptional. I love it because it's like we've been doing it for a while and now he's ready for more of like a permanent based collagen product. He said like that what we're going to do is Bellafill, actually just on top of the hyaluronic acid. We're going to put a little Bellafill. So what we could do is actually hyaluronic acid and Bellafill together. A lot of times we do that. It just sort of depends on how much deficit you have, things like that. Let's see here. Maria saying there's no way she got these results with filler. Appreciate you, Maria. This is filler. Thank you so much. What filler are we talking about? We're talking about dilute Radiesse and Bellafill. Let's see here. Let's see. I missed a few questions here. Triple X saying, does fully ablative CO2 laser give the best results for acne scar patients paired with that was a tongue twister. Paired with excision? Well, it depends what kind of scars you have. That's what it matters. Actually, we have to see that. I see here. Does your staff offer VI peels? Yeah, we do actually. We have I've actually always liked VI peels. I actually do. It's like it's a Jessner's peel, but it's like really easy for people to do. So I like it. It's just like it's a mild peel, but like it's really nice. It's like a quick pick me up, like just like a quick refresher for the holiday time. So I'm actually going to have my team kind of work more with talking more about VI peels on our stories and things like that. You can see actually we really do like it. Our staff really likes it too. It's actually a really nice product actually. Let's see here. Can you make the diameter of a scar smaller? Absolutely. Yeah, that's what we do a ton of. We do it especially with excisions with doing that, but a lot of things can do that. Margie's saying, what can you do for shaggy, wrinkly skin? Actually, this could work really well. Really dilute Radiesse could really help with the skin quality. So you could actually consider doing dilute Radiesse in the neck. Actually works really well. Miss OTF is saying, pitted scars are 100% treatment. I wouldn't really say 100% treatment, but certainly you can improve it over time. It's just not going to be 100%. Just over the course, you get like a year and a half, 2 years sometimes for those that it can improve. Anessa saying, what are the risks regarding migration? Did the filler ever fully dissolve? It's a good question if it fully dissolves. I think some filler could potentially dissolve completely. Sometimes people have said that they've done it before, and I looked at it, and under ultrasound, I don't see it there anymore. But a lot of times there are still little bits of particles there, even years and years and years later. So does it truly, truly fully dissolve? I think it remains to be seen. I'm not sure if we really have the evidence to be able to say it's fully dissolved. I think they actually should prove that. Fitznets is saying, is Sculptra still a goated filler? What areas to avoid using Sculptra for? I like Sculptra, but I wouldn't say it's a goated filler. Like my own favorite is really probably out of everything is Bellafill, really. But if I really want more like skin tightening effect, then dilute Radiesse works really well. If I really want to give it a little bit more volume, then Sculptra, yeah, is really good. But there's multiple different filler options out there. And like I said, I just get all the different brands out there. I don't really stick with a single brand. It just depends on what's happening. Personally, though, like someone was asking here, someone said, "What have I done on my own face?" Yes, I've done pretty much all these things. I've done a little bit of dilute Radiesse before in the past. I've done Bellafill, a lot of Bellafill, and those are things and also some HA filler and some Bellafill in my jaw and my chin. So I did that. Also did my forehead, did forehead filler as well. So temples. So a lot of filler actually. Really, I'm 42 years old and I lost a lot of volume. Probably like now it's about 6 years ago. So lost a ton of volume on my face, and I've always remained the same size. And it was like really, really obvious that I was just super gaunt looking. And like sometimes for me, it's like. Really quick for me to get really gaunt, and it's really nice to have something that's supporting my skin and always there, like something that's making collagen there always for me. Really, really nice for that. Let's see. Jay saying, "Man, everyone always asks you about your work. Let's change it up for a second. What's your hobbies, man?" That's funny. I like that, Jay. I appreciate you for asking that. Honestly, first of all, what I do, I like just like building things in general. So like using a paintbrush and using a laser and repairing skin is actually really fun. But mostly what I end up doing in my spare time is kind of rebuilding and like little three-dimensional sculptures or even like action figures actually. I do some of that. And then I also, with my son, I work with him with Legos and stuff like that. I mostly, honestly, like my relaxing time is like building. That's what I love to do actually. So building is probably like my favorite thing. If I wasn't doing this stuff, I think I'd probably be doing something else with my hands, something else that's like going to restructure or build something, because that's like what I really just like, what's fun for me. Triple X is saying, what are your thoughts on stem cell therapy, especially for acne scars and anti-aging? So the thing with stem cells is that I've talked about this multiple times before, but it may be new. The thing with stem cells is that the FDA has actually put out a letter against stem cells. So, they don't find it safe enough to be able, and not only that, it's not that it's just not even approved, but they actually went out of their way to put a letter out there regarding stem cells. So just, pay attention to that, because like anytime they do that, like it's like, pay attention. There's something going on that like they haven't shown. And like for me, I don't do anything that's not FDA approved in general. But can I do certain areas off label, like Botox? Of course, you could do a little bit off label, just you could do off label things like that. Sure. But when they're actually coming out with a letter saying this is risky, this is dangerous, and stop doing it. And they actually, for certain things, actually stem cells, they've actually put some people in jail for those things. They've also for, certain other injectables, they've cracked down a lot on that stuff. So it's like, I don't know if they've done it to physicians and stuff, but like it's still like pretty like murky. Now, let's say down the line, the stem cells cause cancer. How are you going to justify that really? Or, it caused some sort of fetal abnormality because you got pregnant or something like that. I'm not saying it's going to, it's probably not going to. I'm just saying that like, it's like really like a murky area, especially for somebody with a medical license. It becomes like really, really questionable. And I've talked to you before about this, but there was a guy in my area, he was talking to me about how he wanted to get people hooked up on IV stem cells. And, he's like, I was like, isn't that like not legal right now? And like, this was years ago. And I was like, still like pretty naive and like innocent about this whole thing. I was like, I don't know, is that really legal? And he's just like, well, you know, there's a lot of laws and it's like really backwards right now. But what we're going to do is we're just going to get a yacht and we're going to have people go on a yacht. And do you want to get involved in this? I'm like, absolutely not. No way. I mean, that's the stuff that like people sometimes come up with, these type of things. You know, it's like, it's really shady, sketchy stuff like that. And like, just don't do things like that. You know, don't do that. Like, I'm not going to do it. And like, patients shouldn't really do it. Like, it's just sometimes it's like, you have to wonder about what's being pushed right now and like who's pushing this stuff and what their ulterior motive is. This guy was saying that you know, it's $20,000 to $40,000. I'm like, how do you know it even works? And he's like, people love it. You know, well, yeah, I had somebody who thought that they were getting their cancer treated with mistletoe. You know, it doesn't mean that like it's actually doing it. Like, it's just like, be like more ethical about this stuff and be more fair about this stuff. Let's see here. Can you make the diameter of a scar smaller? Yeah, we could. I mean, with TCA Cross is going to do that. That's one of the big things about that. Excision is going to help with that as well. So that's one really, really big element for making the scar smaller. What's my favorite movie or TV show? TV show is probably still going to be Game of Thrones outside of the last season, probably. It's still there. Like, honestly, the only thing is this. Yeah. I kind of skipped that last season. Triple X saying, any updates on Vert Portrait? Absolutely nothing. We reached out again because I asked about them last week. You guys were asking me about it. I asked again, but the FDA have not heard anything back from them at this point. So nothing. LA saying, thoughts on Sculptra for hollow temples? Any better options? It's a great option for hollow temples, actually. That and Bellafill. Bellafill is a great option for the temple area. So those two are probably the best options there. It really is like, it's amazing because over time it's going to continue to make natural collagen. It works really well for that. So consider that. Let's see, thoughts on Sculptra for acne scars. Well, if there's a lot of volume loss, then it's a great option. But if you're really doing it for more like discrete areas, it may not be the best option because it does go more diffuse. So it may not help as much for that though. How did I get rid of her jowling? I did Bellafill over there, and then I did some filler along the jawline. Actually, that helped out as well. Temple, Cheers Agisha saying, temple filler is beautiful. It is beautiful. It really is. Do you see out-of-state patients? Yeah, most of our patients for scars are out of state, actually. So we do a lot with out-of-state patients, actually. Anyways, guys, I'm all done for tonight. I'll appreciate you all. Thank you so much for the interaction. I'll talk to you tomorrow. And someone's saying they're getting Sculptra tomorrow, so look forward to you. I'll see you. Or if you're wherever you're going. Tracing, what is the suggested minimum time in between Bellafill treatments? Probably at least 3 months. Probably. It depends, though, how much volume loss there is. Steph is asking about phenol peel. We'll talk about phenol peel tomorrow as well. We'll do that. We'll just talk a little bit about that